Hey everyone, it's Javier and Vicky back for episode 3 of our Time to Unwind stretching series. Today we're going to focus on the hips. So we're going to go through 3 different partner stretching exercises that will really allow you to get a deep stretch in the hips through all different types of ranges of motion. And you're going to find that you're actually able to relax a little bit better often than just doing these stretches on your own. So go ahead and get right into it. And as always, give them a shot yourself and let us know how it works out for you. All right, guys. So this first stretch is kind of like a modified butterfly stretch with the partner assistance, and I like to use this big heavy band to help pull my lower back into more of a flattened position, because this part down here is where I tend to be pretty tight, and on my own I'll tend to like slouch back and lose that position, and as a result not get as good of a stretch in the hips. So I have this attached to a post up here. I'm gonna come back a bit so I have more tension, and you can see I set up these yoga blocks here just to brace my feet against, just so I don't slide back forward. Alright, so initially I have my knees a little bit more open here so that when I come forward, it's going to get a bit into the piriformis, but also into the adductors, as you'll see as we work deeper into this one. And then afterwards, I'm going to bring myself forward just to change the emphasis so it's a little bit more on those short adductors here. So let's start here. So I'm going to have Vicky go ahead and first stand up and put her hands on my shoulders to be able to steady herself. Yeah, right in the center, yeah. And then, so one at a time, she's going to place a foot on top of my thigh, right near like the crease of the hip. Yep, so you want to step a little further forward there if you can, yeah. Okay. So right now, you before you have tried this stretch the first time, you might think it's going to be too much weight to have somebody put their full body weight like that. But you might be surprised how much weight you can take in these stretches. And when you're close to the hips, there's not as much leverage as compared if if your partner has the feet out towards the knees. Okay, so, and additionally, if I want less weight, Vicky can just push down on my shoulders more. Okay, so then more weight goes in the hands and the weight comes off of the feet. Okay, so you can adapt this whether or not you are lighter or heavier than your partner. Okay, so with the band tension here, I'm trying to get my anterior pelvic tilt. Okay, I'm trying to flatten out my lower back. And now from here, I can definitely use more pressure downwards. So, Vicky, why don't you go ahead and bring your feet a little bit wider. Yep. There we go.
I'm also pushing down when he needs more weight, so I can control it kind of like a leg press.
Yeah, well, it's just about kind of positioning your body. So, from here. Actually, no, go a little wider. I can still use some more. Alright. Alright, so from here, what I like to do is a little contract and relax. So what I'm going to do is squeeze up to resist against Vicky. About a 10-second hold here. Then I'm going to take a big breath in and then try to relax. So try to let the hips just completely relax and open up. And I'll try that one more time. I'll resist. I'm trying to get those going down towards the floor. This is one of my tighter areas, so it definitely needs a lot of assistance to get it moving and to get it opened up. Let's do one more contract and relax. All right. Okay, so why don't you step off real quick? Yeah, and as she steps off, she kind of shifts more weight onto the hands to release weight from the hips, and then step off one by one gradually. You never really want to get out of stretches too quickly. It can be uncomfortable for the person in the stretch. All right, so now we'll go closer here, and basically we'll go back into the same thing, but just from a different position as far as the angle of the knee.
Would you want me here or here?
Yeah, maybe about towards the middle here. Yep.
Make a swivel.
Ooh. Yeah, this one is a little bit more targeted in the adductor as opposed to the piriformis. All right, contracting. And the goal, for me at least, is to get these legs flat down to the floor. I might not get there today, but not too far off. If you're flexible already, then you can actually sit up on a cushion or something that's elevated, and you can even get the knees slightly below the level of the hips. So you can just kind of hang out in these stretches for a while. And once you kind of reach your limit for the day, then just exit the stretch the same way. Have your partner press down on the shoulders, step out gradually one by one, and then kind of slowly get out of the stretch. All right, so that's the variation that works well for me. I really need this extra assistance right now to help maintain my position. Otherwise, my back just gets very fatigued trying to hold that throughout the whole stretch. All right, so now we're going to show another version that I use for Vicky, and it's something that works a little bit better for her. All right, so here's another way to get into the stretch that I just did, and I find it to be especially good if there's a large weight discrepancy between you and your partner. Having a pull-up bar up here to hold on to lets me control my weight and allows me to balance myself a little bit more easily if not as much weight is needed, and allows me to also use my shins to push forward, which you'll see in a second. So I'll grab up on the bar here. You could also use a set of rings, TRX straps, or something of that nature. So stepping 1 foot at a time. Okay. So how's that there?
That's good. I'm also sitting on a higher level, cushioned, since I am a bit more flexible than Javier. I do need that extra space to be able to bring my legs down further.
All right, so I'll start by kind of working my feet out a little bit so I can increase that leverage there, that downward pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so now from here, what we can also work on is that forward fold. So I want you to really extend through that mid back, making sure you're up nice and tall. So you're holding that position there, and then keeping my knees close together behind her back, I'm going to push forward a bit. Now make sure you don't round, so extend through the mid back. Yeah, and so where do you feel that stretch coming on now?
Well, right now I feel it on my glutes, specifically on my right one, since that's my tighter side.
Oh, okay. So you might notice that people feel these stretches in different areas. So for example, I felt it more in the adductor, Vicky feels it more in the glute. Kind of just depends on what is the tightest area and this particular position.
You can go a little further out towards my knees.
So again, when I move my feet out, it increases the amount of leverage and the amount of downward pressure that your partner's going to feel. And like all these stretches, it's important just to always get feedback from the person that you're stretching, so you know how to adjust.
Right.
More on the right.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to bring up resist. Can you bring my back forward a little bit?
Okay, so I'm going to bend my knees.
A little more on the right. Yeah, there we go. Right. A little further out towards my knees would be good.
Yeah, some of these stretches, they might look a little bit funny, but once you get into them, you understand how powerful they can be as far as letting you get multiple points of pressure and really opening up the body from different points at the same time.
Well, for me at least, it's very difficult to relax when I'm stretching on my own areas where I'm tightest. So this actually allows me to focus on relaxing while the other person is doing not all the stretching, but assisting with the stretch. All right, a little bit more on my right. And it allows me to focus on what areas need most.
And don't forget to still incorporate those contractions within the stretches, because actually working on strengthening the muscles in these more deeper stretch positions is one of the things that helps makes the stretches, the benefit of the stretches last longer and to help you maintain those flexibility gains. Because when you're stronger through the bigger range of motion, your body will be more comfortable and will feel safer moving through those ranges of motion on their own.
Alright, I think I'm good.
Alright, so I'm going to lift myself up. Step off slowly.
Ooh.
Alright, so moving on to the next one. Alright, so now we got one of my favorite stretches for the hip flexors coming up next. It might actually look more like a hamstring stretch, and for some of you it might be a more significant hamstring stretch, but when you do it properly, I think it can get a very effective opening effect on the hip flexor and also strengthening at the same time. So what you're going to do is I use a yoga hammock like this, but you could use any type of suspended strap. If it's just like a nylon strap, you might want to add a little cushion or something in there so that it's more comfortable on the foot or the heel. You can also work it with a ring, and again, just put something in there so you don't slip off. So I'm going to start with my right leg forward here. Now my standing foot, I want to try to keep that toe pointed straight ahead. And now the key with this one is this knee needs to stay locked out. Okay, 100% straight. I'm going to stand up tall. And so initially, without my partner's assistance, I'm just going to let myself kind of sway forward. But as I go forward, I'm not leaning forward. That's good for the hamstring, but we're trying to focus on the hip. So I'm going to sway forward. My right leg is pushing forward. And I'm actually leaning back a little bit at the same time. Okay, if you want, you can hold on to your apparatus to maintain your balance. You could do it without it as well. So I'm leaning forward here, and now, so my partner they're gonna help my hips stay squared up. They're gonna cue me to make sure my knee stays locked. And yeah, they're gonna push my hip forward. So my left hip is getting pushed forward. Oop, let me adjust myself. And the right hip getting pulled back. And at the same time, I'm trying to squeeze my quad. And just like we did with the other stretches, you can do contract and relax with this one. So for this one to contract, I'm gonna try to pull my legs together. So it's almost like I'm trying to drag my left foot forward against the ground. Then I'm gonna relax, squeezing my quad. And Vicky, you go ahead and push on my left hip a little bit more on that glute. Yep. I'm trying to sink into it. Alright, do one more contract. Keep that resistance. And I'm sinking forward, leaning back, and trying to squeeze my quad. Alright, now come out of there. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, so that one, the deeper you go, the more the stretch starts to transfer to the hamstring as well. If you wanted to focus on the hamstring itself, you could obviously lean forward into the stretch, but yeah, that one really opens up the hip here. So let me go ahead and even out. I'll get the other side. Alright, starting up tall. Feel out yourself first before your partner steps in. Okay. So I'm just going to lean into it. Alright, now you can give me a little pressure. So if my right foot's on the ground, then the partner is going to push forward on the right glute to try to keep myself squared up. Actually, let me adjust to I'm a little off center here. Alright. Yeah, these are tight for me. Alright, I'm going to do a contraction. Remember, as you relax, you try to straighten that knee. Ooh. And one more time, contracting. You can push a little bit more. Yeah. Alright. Okay, so for you, let's probably lower it down a little bit, right? Ooh. My legs are all kind of jelly feeling. If you only do one side and not the other, then you find that you kind of start walking around in a circle.
This actually is one of my least favorites because this is where I'm tightest, where I tend to avoid stretching.
Yeah, anytime you start sitting too much, hip flexor is going to get tight. So yeah, and you want to make sure you're not too close to the anchor point here, because otherwise it's hard to get your weight leaning forward. Alternatively, if the hammock is too high, it could also make it challenging. So another note that I didn't mention before, you actually want to try to pull in the abs here, so you're in more of like a posterior tilt, not anterior. Yeah. Okay. So I'm here and helping to square up. Okay. Because the tendency is to want to do this. So I'm helping to square up here. Now, really lock out that left knee.
Ooh, that's good right there.
Yeah, squeeze the quad there. And with this one, you can also squeeze the glute as well on the standing leg. That can help to deepen into the stretch.
Also for me, what helps I tend to like rotate my foot out, so like short footing or also like squeezing my toe down to the floor.
Yeah, I can
helps
even
my inner thigh.
Yeah, I can even block that with my foot there to help avoid the foot trying to pivot outwards.
Oof.
When did you do a contraction there? Mm-hmm. Okay. Then you can do the other side. Hey, let me see. No, this way. So I just block the heel there so it doesn't move around. Right side. I want you to lean forward on your own first. We're going to try to pull the abs in. And squeeze the quad. There's all sorts of different ways you can assist with the stretch. Sometimes I'll actually have a hand down in front of the thigh and the other one on top. So I'm kind of leveraging like that.
Oh yeah.
That's another way to do it, where you're really focusing on keeping the knee straight.
Contract.
But it's good to kind of assist from different areas, so you can do that assist for a while and then kind of focus more so on rotating the hips, which means that the person in the stretch will have to do more work on their own to keep that quad straight. So you really want to squeeze the quad on the standing leg as tight as possible, because what that really does is it extends the hip further. Okay, since the foot's not moving, the knee ends up moving backwards.
Ooh.
Good?
Yeah.
All right. So now we got one more to go. All right, now we're going to go into an assisted version of what many people know as like a pigeon pose. Now, what I like to emphasize with this movement when I'm working on it with a partner is having my hips squared up to the ground. I find that's the challenging part when I'm doing it on my own, is keeping that rear hip pushed forward, because it's very easy if I'm doing it on my own to kind of fall off to the side and to end up on the outside of the hip instead of being more squared up and rolling this hip forward in this way. So since this is an area for me that needs a lot of work, I'm going to use a yoga block here. Initially I like to set it up in this position for myself to give me a little bit more height.
That's good.
So I'm going to put my hip under there. Now this back leg, I'm going to straighten it out. And I want the top of my thigh to roll forward so it's facing the ground. My knee, okay, I like to go with my knee in a little more open position. So about 90 degrees or so. It could be a little bit bigger than 90. And I'm going to slide my heel and my knee outwards a bit. Okay? So it's not going to be over here, but it's going to be more, my heel is going to be more towards the center of my chest. All right? So now what my partner is going to do is to help me get this hip downwards a little bit. Yep, you're going to roll me that way. And as I roll the hip forward, I'm going to try to keep my chest facing the ground. Okay, so this is one way to assist in this one. So let's show the other way. So Vicky can actually just stay behind me seated.
So I'm gonna sit right over his glute, but because it's a bit harder for me to hold on to him, I'm gonna put a strap around him. So that way I am pulling on his left hip and able to put all the pressure on the one I'm sitting on.
Yeah, so she's kind of purposefully sliding to my right to help keep the hips squared up. So what you can do in these, so take off the pressure a little bit. Once I feel like I'm opening up, I'll make the yoga block a little bit lower. Okay. And then we'll go back into the position again. And so this is one that I would need to spend a good amount of time in to really open up. But just for the sake of time, I'm going to show a couple other variations on this. So while I'm in this stretch, I can add the quad into it. So I'm going to start to curl up. Yep. And so my partner can bend up my rear leg.
And doing this is also why I would need the strap, because it makes it difficult to kind of keep myself in place and bring the leg up. So I'm able to just kind of do both with the assistance of the band.
You can keep on bringing that up. Yeah, that's good there. And just like any of these stretches, you can do a contract and relax type of movement. So I can kick out my leg a little bit. And then relax it, and have my partner kind of pull into the stretch a little bit deeper. All right, let's come out of that one slowly. Okay. Woo. All right. Yeah, that's definitely a deep one for me, challenging one. You want to make sure mentally you're ready to stay in the stretch for at least a couple minutes in order to get the most benefit out of it. Ugh. Alright, let's get the other side. So we'll just go through the sequence on the other side so you guys can take a look at that. Let me move it over a little bit. A little bit more downwards and to the left. Yeah. Alright, let me bring this one a little lower. So let's try the seated variation. Having this hand here helps to kind of square myself up as well. Alright, so a little bit, more leftward. Yeah, so interestingly, this one I actually feel a lot in the hip flexor as well. Can you adjust this a little bit lower?
Mm-hmm.
There we go. And now let me try bringing this leg up.
More?
Yeah, you can pull it up more. Slow, yeah. A little more pressure downwards if you can. Yep. I do a little contract. So right now I'm kicking out with my left leg. And then I'm relaxing it. Letting Vicky pull it in deeper. You can keep going a little bit more. That's good. And if you can actually get even more creative with these, once I have my leg up into that position, if you want to use some type of prop to hold my foot in that position without my partner needing to maintain it on their own, that's something you can do as well. There's a lot of more variations just on this stretch alone that I'm sure we'll get to in future videos, but this should be definitely a good start in really opening up those hips. So now let's just demonstrate it with Vicky in the stretch as well. So yeah, you can see when Vicky is initially on the ground with the left glute on the ground. See how this hip, the hip is open. So you want to really get the most effective stretch on that left glute, that whole piriformis glute area. You want to try to square up. Okay.
Am I right?
Yeah, so I'm just kind of doing a little visual assessment first. You can see where the starting point is. And now I can try to slowly move into that more squared off position.
That's good.
So if you find you have a lot of trouble trying to square up the hips, then I would just say start with the hip more elevated and then work your way down from there. You've still got a little ways to go. Getting closer now, squaring it up. Well, let me change my position. Because even though I'm a lot heavier than Vicky, I can actually do the seated version, assisting. I'm just using my legs to control how much weight I have down on there. So just because you're bigger doesn't mean you can't do the same stretch. So I'm sitting down. How's that?
That's good.
So now I'm grabbing the foot.
And that's good right there.
Again, I'm kind of leaning slightly to the left to help the hips square up. Contracting.
Okay, I think I'm good.
All right.
See, this one I feel more on my glute on this side.
So I'm always looking at this leg to see if it's rolling forward. I can even take my hand on top of the back of the hamstring and help to rotate
Ooh.
from the leg itself as well. That helps to keep it in position. Okay. And so I don't necessarily need to sit on the glute in order to add the quad into it. So I could also just be here, pushing with one hand
Ooh.
and leveraging with the other. The main point is you don't want to be in a position where, as the partner assisting, you're tiring yourself out doing these stretches. You kind of just want to use your own body weight to create the assistance. And you see how I'm kind of using my knee to block my elbow there. So I'm not really pushing with my arm, I'm just kind of leaning in with my body. That's good?
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right. So just those three stretches on their own will, in my opinion, do a lot to help reset the hips and to make them feel a lot more loose and mobile. Especially, as we like to always mention, if you're doing a lot of work seated, working at a desk, or doing any stationary task a lot through your workday. So give those three a shot.
Hold on. Do you feel like there's sorry, I guess I wanted to ask, what are the benefits of like stretching out the hips other than just not feeling tight?
I mean, the hips are the core of the body. So besides just feeling more freedom of movement, I mean, you notice that with this and any other kind of stretching, you also feel psychologically, mentally more relaxed as well. I find that stretching tension in the body can result in feeling more stressed and more, temperamental, and vice versa. So being more stressed tends to make you feel tighter in the body. So sometimes if you're trying to address a mental stress, start with the physical. If you're trying to address a physical issue, start with the mental. So you are kind of working from, you're taking more of a holistic approach. And, it really does work. It's not just some kind of made up, mumbo jumbo type stuff. It really works. Just give it a shot and, let us know how it works out for you. All right, see you guys next time for episode 4.